So today's webinar presentation is why the PE license still matters and why engineers keep delaying it. So go to the next page. The presenter, as you know, I'm Shaibu. I'm a senior electrical engineer in the renewable energy sector with over a decade of experience in the industry. I am also a senior IEEE member. I also volunteer in some of the subcommittees and also IEEE standard. In today's presentation, we'll talk about 6 main things. The first one is what a PE license is and what it is not. And then also the benefit of getting the PE license. Most people have different motivations for acquiring the license. Some people, they want to get it because they want to improve their career. But more than career, the PE licenses provide additional benefit that we'll talk about. We'll also talk about some industry facts, the licensure rates, and also what separates them, especially from people who have a PE and those who do not have a PE license. Why engineers keep postponing and what finally breaks the cycle. And then I also talk briefly about myself going through the exams. Just a brief story about my journey, in case that helps some of you, because everybody has a starting point and it's always a journey. And once you set the goal towards that, you will be able to achieve it. I will also talk about the full cycle from starting from a PE, starting from FE, and then you go to the engineer in training, designation, and then the PE path. And then the last will be open section for question and answers. Okay, before we go deep into the topic, I just want to talk a bit about the history of the professional engineer licensure in the United States. And this did not start today. It's over 100-year period. But even talking about the whole process in the US, engineering has started quite long years ago, right? But without any structure, and people do everything they want to do without regulation, without following standards. So in the 1800s BC, there was this Babylonian king or ruler called Hammurabi. So Hammurabi has the eye for eye policy. The eye for eye policy that was also applied to engineering. So if you are a builder and then you put up a house and the house collapses and then kills the residents or the house owner, who is responsible for this? Is it the house owner or the builder? So Hammurabi's principle for eye is that if the builder builds the building and it breaks and then kills the resident, then the builder would also be killed. If the son of the house owner dies or the child of the house owner passes away, then the builder's son or child will also be killed. So this was how several years ago they were using this kind of process to ensure that public safety and then public welfare is guaranteed from builders or even engineers. Okay. So in the United States, the entire process of licensure started in 1907, and Wyoming was the first state to pass the legislation for engineers to be licensed. And this was because people wanted to take advantage of resources, get land permits to explore resources without having any qualification. So that was how the process started. And then in 1907, it actually started 1903. And then 4 years later, they passed, because of that whole entire mess, the 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 law was passed in 1907. Okay, so fast forward, this whole process went through different stages. After that, other states decided to also have a process to ensure that engineers actually provide the competence of providing the service they want to provide, right? And then in 1930s to 40s, they were advancing standards. States began to adopt uniform principles, because when this process started, every state is doing their own and everything started becoming a mess. And so it was becoming more standardized. If in 1950s, we have the role of the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying. They came in to make the system more formalized, even though the NCEES started about 1891, right? So in 1960s to 1990, we have like a uniform or a unified commitment across the nation. All the 50 states, including the District of Columbia and U.S. territories, established the licensure laws for professional engineers. So this created a consistent system where all the states or all engineers in the US would have a uniform process of ensuring public health, safety, and welfare. And that is a fundamental use of the lances to ensure public safety and welfare. So now in our today's current dispensation, the lances is still important. It remains as the gold standard of engineering practice in the industry. It is also a symbol of trust. It demonstrates competence and ethical responsibility. So as technology and society continue to evolve, so will professional licensure provide the commitment of providing public safety. Okay, so I'll move on to the next page. Now, engineers, we love numbers, so I'd want to talk about numbers here. Before that, let me check quick if other people are trying to join and I have to admit them. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we all love numbers. We want to see the numbers to show proof. We have been doing a lot of calculations in our profession. So in the US, there are a lot of engineers, and these numbers are based on getting the exact numbers actually difficult, but based on estimations, nearly 494,000 engineers are actually lances in the US. And if we talk about electrical specific, about 22% are actually having the lances. So that means that about 78% of electrical engineers do not hold the lances. And this credential could be a multiplier in their career, but they still don't have it based on several reasons that we'll talk about later. If you take a look and do the maths, the premium lifetime, or if you are to work in the industry, let's say 30 years, and then you do the difference between having a PE license and not having a PE license, you realize that you would have a premium earnings of about $500,000. So this is very significant. Having the license is not something that is a certificate. It's not something to boast of, but it's something to improve your life, your career, as well as you providing credible service to the public. Go to the next. Now let's talk about what a PE license actually is, and then what it is not. So the PE license provides the highest standards of competence, safety, and ethics. Right? It authorizes the engineer to offer engineering services directly to the public. As I mentioned, it is not just a certificate, but it is a certificate, not a mere certificate, but it is a license that provides you the legal authority to actually seal and stamp engineering drawings or packages. So in the United States, you cannot complete any major engineering project without having a license PE to provide their seal and stamping and signature on that package. So that's the first one. So it's a legal document. Number two, the license also provides public safety mandates. The PE license exists to protect the public. Per NCEES, it ensures that only those with verified knowledge, experience, and ethics are responsible for engineering decisions affecting lives. Number three, right? This PE license is state regulated. So which means that all the 50 states in the US are independent of each other. If you are applying for a PE license in New Jersey, it's going to be a different licensing board to give you the license as compared to if you're applying to New York. So these are independent. It's one thing you have to know. So if you have this means that if you have a license let's say in New York, you cannot apply the New York stamp in a different state drawings. So if there's a project in, let's say, Florida, you have to have a PE from Florida to actually provide stamping to those drawings, not from a different state, even though it's the same country. So it's also a portable credential that you can travel or you can carry along, right? Which means that if you have one state license, it gives you the flexibility of reciprocity or comity. This simply means that if you have a license in one state, you can apply to another state to have a multi-state licensure. What the PE license unlocks. Some I have already talked about it. It provides you the legal authority to seal and stamp drawings or engineering packages. It gives you the credential for many government, municipal, and federal contracts. There are some contracts before you would actually be awarded. They need to see that you have the competence. So this is where the license helps you. You can win contracts. You can start your own consulting if you want. So it gives you a lot of things. It also offers the eligibility for engineering services that you can provide to the public independently. So you can do your own stuff. And then also it provides the gateway to leadership, management, and principal roles. In some companies, you actually would need the PE license to get to the next level. And then some other companies too, or some other industries, it may not apply. So it all depends. The PE also unlocks other things in terms of your career. As we all know, some companies, they can lay off people, and being laid off might not necessarily mean that you are not good. But generally, if you are having the credential, because it's very cherished, you have some kind of protection, right? And then also it enhances your credibility, right? You can be an expert witness in case there's a litigation on a project. So if there's an engineering project and later on there's any court case or litigation, the license PE may be called in to come and bear witness and provide all the evidences and then what went into the design and everything. And also it's also recognized as marker of competence and professional ethics. Now let's talk about some of the industries that strongly require, or if you have the PE license, it really helps you. It provides you more leverage. Number one of them, since we are talking about power industry, power, electrical, and power utilities, and grid will be number one. Having the PE license in it actually helps you in utilities. Okay. Next is also government and municipal engineering. So if you want to work in the government or federal institutions, having a license also helps. And don't get me wrong, having the license doesn't mean that you are guaranteed the job or the opportunity in government or municipal contracts, right? It only gives you the leverage, gives you the advantage. If you have two people with the same level of qualification, and then one is a licensed engineer, then there's a high probability of the people who actually award the contract thinking that the one with the license has gone further into professional ethics, especially professional ethics. You can be knowledgeable, experienced, but maybe you lack ethics. But going through the process of acquiring a license actually trains you to be more ethical. Another industry, consulting. Most companies that provide services, engineering, design, are consulting, in solar, wind, battery energy storage, in MEP, right? Or EPCs, they all provide consulting services. So having the license actually helps you here too. Okay, I already mentioned this about the expert witness. During forensic test, they might require somebody who has the ethics and the competence to provide witness. So don't be scared about this one, because some people might think that, okay, if there's litigation and I will be called to bear witness, then I don't even need the license. It's not going to be like that. And I have seen this one in practice where, let's say you work on a project and later on there's a problem with the design, right? Even if there's a litigation, it's not going to go against the PE that stamp, right? It's going to go against the company, but you would represent the company. I hope that clarifies. So you don't think that, okay, I'm going to be arrested or I'm going to be put in a situation where I have to bear witness. But this is something that is done in the industry. And then construction and then infrastructure. Having a license also helps here, right? Because building huge infrastructure is not a small undertaking. You have a lot of controls that has to be implemented in terms of environment, in terms of how pollution might affect people. So these are all about public health, right? And the PE license, the main reason is to ensure that people practice by providing engineering services that will ensure public health, public safety, and then the well-being of people. So having the license also helps you here. Okay. Most people always go with career. They want to have the license because they want to improve their career. And I have talked to many people over the past 3 years. Most people want career growth. And this is very normal and very great. Everybody wants to see growth in their career. How does the PE license help you in your career growth? Right? In the US, it is estimated that from 2024 to 2034, there would be much jobs that will be created, right, for electrical engineers. And this is much faster than the average for all occupations in the US. So Electrical engineering is a high demand profession. Think about it. Every industry that you would want to work in, one way or the other, will need electrical engineer. If you go into manufacturing, think about every industry needs electrical engineer. So, but the um, most industries that will need electrical engineering will be the power industry that hires more. Also, now there is a need for grid modernization, expanding the grid, making it more smart and the rest. So, which means that this is going to having the license is going to put you ahead. There's also renewable energy expansion. That means that more jobs are created in these areas. So, if more jobs are created in renewable energies field, it means you would need to develop the project, build it, and you need PEs or professional engineers to actually stamp it. So more demand. There's also AI data centers and electric vehicle infrastructure expansion. This would go through engineering process, rigorous one, and you will need a licensure or a license engineer to provide a seal to this. So this call for demand. If you think about career growth, this provides you a path where you can actually improve your career. Now let's talk about who gets the PE license. And as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of people have different motivation, right? But who gets it? Those who treat the FE and the PE as a career investment, not a checkbox. This is very important. The entire process is not going to start today and then you get the license like tomorrow or next week. It's a process. So you need to think about it like the way you invest. If you put in $100 investment, you don't expect to get the profit just tomorrow. It is a long-term process, right? So a PE process is also a long-term investment, but not something you want to just start and then finish it within a short period of time. It's also those who document their experience from day one. Once you start working, you need to start putting together, or everybody has a CV, right? So if you have a CV, that means that you are documenting your work experience. But the way we submit the work experience to the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying is a bit different, right? It's not like the way we write the CV. So when you're documenting your experience, you need to mention specific engineering things that you did that has impact. You need to document those ones. Also, you need to work under a PE mentor internally. So the whole process for you to get the license, you need to write an exam, pass the exam, have work experience, document them, and submit all of this to the National Council. Why this is important? You need references, and these references, you need some of them to be licensed professional engineers, right? So it means that you need to work under a PE to be able to get a reference to submit to the National Council. So throughout your career, you need to plan about that. Do you have somebody that you are working under who already has a license? Because one day when you're submitting, this is actually the pain. It's actually a pain process, right? But it is worth it. We've all gone through this. You have to work under a PE to be able to fulfill that requirement. Also, those who set a firm exam date and prepare a study plan. These are the people who actually will get the PE license. They also treat failure as a data, not defeat. And then they prepare to reset for the exam. As I mentioned in some of my previous presentations, when I wrote the FE exam, which is the fundamentals of engineering for the first time, I failed the exam. But that is the data. When you fail, it is not the end. The National Council will provide you a diagnostic test or a diagnostic report And in that report, you would be able to tell why you failed. So you need to, it's a data source. It tells you what you have to do to pass the exam for the next time. Also, those who view the lances as a floor but not a ceiling, even though if you are a lances PE, it's always like at the starting point, and there's always room for improvement, right? You would have to do continuous education to keep it. So it's not something you get and that is all. You need to keep on improving based on how the industry is expanding, improving, right? Also, they build a professional network, by joining groups or association or professional let's say, for instance, National Society of Professional Engineers is one. You can join those kind of groups. Now let's look at the other part, those who does not. Okay. So first is those who are able to get a PE license and those who are not able to get it. Number one is people who give a lot of excuses. So my company does not require it right now. So which means that if your company doesn't require it right now, you don't have any motivation to write it. And then also people will say, I will do it after this project is done. Everybody's working on a project, but you are trying to hold on because you have something that you are working on. As other people also said, okay, I graduated very long ago, like 10 years ago, and I am too rusty. I cannot do it because I've forgotten a lot of things. Okay. And then some people might also say, I don't need it for the job I have. It is true, not every job or every company requires it, but you need to have a good reason why you need the lances. And then that reason may be far bigger than the company not just needing it. Okay. Other people might say, okay, even if they have the EIT, right, they might want it to expire before they take the next step, right? As I mentioned, there are two exams. You write the fundamentals of engineering, and the second one is the principles and practice of engineering, which is the PE. So if you pass the first one, you are eligible to get the EIT designation. And then you accumulate years of experience before you write the PE, or before you can get your PE license, right? So most people might want to wait, and then waiting too much might drive the motivation away. For instance, I wrote the FE and the PE within the same year in 2022. So I did not wait. You can do that. And then also they want to wait for someone to tell them it is time now to take action. Most of us have been in similar situation, and I have also been in that kind of situation by thinking a lot and trying to delay and trying to give reasons, which is normal. But these are some of the reasons I have been able to identify after talking to several engineers. Okay, let's look at the main problem, the delay problem, the psychology of delay, and then why engineers keep on waiting. Okay, number one is the comfort trap. So current job does not require it, but comfort is not security. You have to know that. The PE protects you when the market shifts. Other people also will say, okay, they are rusty, as I mentioned earlier on. Others have the perfectionist pause. They want to be so perfect and so ready before they take the action. And then also information gap. Many engineers delay because they genuinely do not know the process. Nobody explained it to them. That is why this series actually occurred. And I have been in this situation before. When I started thinking about taking one day having the PE license, that was in 2019. In 2019, I started thinking about it that, okay, once I come to the US, I would want to have a PE license one day. Right? But I wasn't having a clear direction of what to do and where to start. Even when I applied to the board, I made some mistakes, and then they have to bring my documents or reply me back. So all of this, you need to know a lot of things um, to be able to go through the process successfully. So information gap, that is why I'm putting together this series to clarify things to engineers. Okay. Another thing is the moving target. State requirements vary, and then most people do not know this. One time I have a call with a session with other people, and then some people were asking about, okay, if I am in India and then I get the lances, can I provide stamping to drawings in the US? So that is going to be out of the way, because even in the US, one state does not apply to another state. So if you live in a different country, that means that you cannot have a license in that country and then apply your stamping here, unless you have the stamp in that state, which is also possible. Which is possible, and then we'll look at that in different section where international people, you can be in a different country and then have the lances. So we'll talk about that later. Okay, the isolation problem. So without a mentor or a community, the journey feels impossible. Engineers who have a guide are statistically more likely to complete the process. What delay actually cost you? So on average, if we compare an engineer who is licensed and the one who is not licensed, the difference, this is not based on hard numbers, right? This is based on a survey from different organizations, right? Obviously, nobody is coming out to say that, okay, this is my salary and the rest, but big organizations have national data that shows salaries of engineers with PE and salaries of engineers who don't have the PE. So on average, let's say that the difference is like 17,000, right? And then you keep on delaying that. So every year, maybe you are supposed to get plus $17,000 in your income. But the more you delay, that means that you are losing money. You're putting money under the table. Over the period of time, right? If you compound it, we've already checked that in 5 years, 17 times 5 is going to cost you like $85,000. That's like a lot of money. And then also you keep on closing doors of opportunities to yourself. The more you keep on delaying, how it's going to cost you. And then as the years compound and compound, you see that your growth cannot recover anymore. You get to a point where you feel like you're stuck, and then you cannot actually have any projections into different things that you can do. So delaying your PE license actually costs you. The earlier you take the action, the better. And then the earlier you have a strategic plan about how you want to execute it step by step, the better for you. Yeah, okay, let me talk about myself, my journey briefly. So the whole process, as I mentioned on, starts from somewhere and it goes through all the steps, right? So first of all, when I started in 2021, that was when I wrote the first one in November and I did not pass. And then in early 2022, I wrote it again, having a clear plan and direction, and I passed it. With that clear practice or strategy, I wrote the PE exams 2 months later and I passed the PE as well. Then I waited. So I waited for some time and accumulate experience working under a professional engineer in the US. Okay. And then now after that accumulation of experience and then providing my education documents to the National Council for Credential Evaluation, completing all the state application process, I was able to acquire my PE license. It's a lot of process, but at the end of the day, it is worth it. Okay, so this process, if you are not very determined, or if you don't have somebody to inform you the process and guide you, you might end up giving up. Okay, let's look at we are almost getting to the end of my talk and then open for the question and answers. So you start with a FE, go to your AIT, and then finally to the PE lances. There are important things to do. First, you need education. Second is your examination, and the third is experience. These are the three most important things. So if you look at it, the National Council calls them, we have the E, which is education, the E, another E, which is the examination, and another E, which is the experience. So the three E's. So these three E's, you need them. Education. Is your education accredited or it's not accredited? Is your education in the US or is outside the US? You need to know this. So if your education is outside the US, no problem. It means that you need to just do one additional thing. You need to submit your education, the coursework, plus they call it the detail, like the breakdown of the courses that you took. So for instance, if you took a course in electrical machines, there's always like a brief, like a paragraph description about the electrical machine course. So you would typically will get this thing from your school. Your school will provide this, or your department will provide this. You can even get it from the school website. And so you need to provide that detailed course coursework, and then also your transcript. All of this would have to be sent by your university to the National Council for educational evaluation or for credential evaluation. Number two, you need, but if your education is in the US, you don't need this evaluation. If your education is in the US and it's accredited, no evaluation. So that place you have saved $400. So evaluation alone will cost you $400. You pay that money not to me, but to the National Council. Okay. Sometimes, even if it is not the National Council, some states will give you some options. So you have options to select where to send your staff, your educational background to for the evaluation. Most people use the National Council. At the end of the day, everything will be sent through National Council to the state board. So I always prefer using the National Council for the evaluation. Number two, as I mentioned, you need to take the exam. The exam is the FE exam, Fundamentals of Engineering, and the PE exam, which is the Principles and Practice of Engineering. You take those two, you pass them. After that, you can accumulate your work experience, and then you submit everything to the state, through the National Council, and then it goes to the state board. The state board will take some time to evaluate everything that you have submitted. Sometimes they do a background check to see that you don't have a criminal records. They do a lot of things. So after that, before they provide you the approval. Some states might even require you to provide a police report. I provided a police report when I was applying for Pennsylvania. So need to bear in mind. Okay. What to take away from today? So I'm just wrapping up from today's presentation. The PE license is a legal credential. It's not just a certification. It's a legal document. The PE license gives you the leverage of earning about 15 to 25% ahead more, right? But let's say 20%. And then that could even widen as you progress in your career. Electrical engineering is growing at 7%. So what do you want to do with this? It's more jobs coming, more opportunities, but the better if you have a PE, it puts you in a better position. So delay is expensive. Every year costs you real money and real career momentum. Finally, this is the last page. it is your turn now. We are 46 minutes into the presentation. So yeah, that was my plan, to have 45 minutes talk, and then I give you the 15 minutes back to ask your questions. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can provide your question in the chat, and then I'll read it and then we'll discuss. Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation first. Really enjoyed it. So I have two questions. One is, you said about like documenting your experiences. So can you speak more about like how, if you have any like source that you can share with us as to how we should document our work, like our experience? Second is, second question is, I'm planning on taking the exam, PE exam, in about like 6 months, sometime in February, like next year. What can you tell me about the exam, especially as compared to like the FE exam? Like, why do people fail? If you can just speak a little bit about that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. So you've already taken the FE exam, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, good. Congrats. So yeah, so the first one is documenting the work experience. So the first place to look for how to document the work experience is published by the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying. On their website, they provide examples of how you document it. But for instance, let's say you work on a project, let's say a solar project, right? In the way we write our CV is a bit different from how you write the experience. They don't want you to write something so long. It depends. So they normally will give you a limit of words you can write, typically up to it's in 2 sections. So you have a place where you put like the summary and then the detail. So you need to mention the project, let's say the location of the project. Maybe it is in Texas, maybe in this county. And then also you would mention the size of the project. No, you need to give the specific details, those little details. Let's say a 300 megawatt AC solar, and let's say 450 megawatt DC, something like that, located in this county in Texas. And then you give the time when you actually work on the project. This is very important. I have submitted work experience when the council sent it back to me to correct it. So you need to mention, let's say you started in 2023 January, and then you give the duration of when you actually completed the project, or when you were actually on that project. Specific details. And then the final thing is to mention the actual thing you did on the project. So if you were the one who designed the protection settings, you need to mention you design protection settings for maybe this kind of relay, maybe a feeder relays. You can mention feeder relays and then mention specific detail, maybe XEL 751. Or you can mention, if you are the one who designed the transformer protection, you can mention it XEL 487E. Or the bus bar, you can mention anything, but provide the specific details of what you did on that project. So that is how you write it, specific details. Number 2, you mentioned about the PE exam. As you know, the PE exam is 9-hour period, and it is more rigorous. It is less questions as compared to the FE. FE is 110 questions, and you have 5 hours, 20 minutes to complete it, even though it is 6 hours exam. And then the PE, 9 hours, but you have like 8 hours and 8 hours and 20 minutes or so to finish that exam too. But the PE has 80 questions, and the PE is more detailed, you know. So for me, from my experience, I see the PE to be easier to pass than the FE. And the main reason is that the FE, you need to learn like 17 knowledge areas. So if you have been able to pass the FE, then I see you to be able to pass the PE even easier, because PE, you have only 9 knowledge areas now, 9 knowledge areas. and you just need to learn how to navigate through the handbook. The handbook that will be provided in the exam. You need to go through the handbook in such a way that when you get to the exam, you know where to look for specific things, because you won't be able to search for things in the handbook during the exam. So that's going to slow you down. That is the tip I would give you. The handbook you have right now, try to go through it several times and then identify where to find things, specific things that you think is difficult for you. And then also don't forget about the standards, the National Electrical Code, and then the other standards that you need to know. Most people neglect those ones. And then if you don't get the questions on those, that can lead you to fail. So that is what I would say about your preparation towards the PE, and I wish you all the best. I believe you'll be able to make it.
Thank you.
Okay, another question. Okay, another question. Let's see if somebody has a question in the chat. But yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay. Yeah, I'll read this question from Justin. Is there any international significance to having the PE license? So yeah, I would think about, yeah, there would definitely be international benefit. And the US, even though the license is in the US, right? Other countries like if you are in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, you are in Japan, even if you're in UK or some countries that qualifies under the Washington Accord, you can go through the US process to acquire the license. Now, the key thing is that through the Washington Accord, there are some states currently that you can acquire the PE license, even though you live in UK, right? You are living in UK, you can still get a US license in states, for instance, like let's say Nevada. And so if I have a PE license in Nevada, and let's say my company, right? My company is working on a project in Nevada, then you'll be able to provide a PE stamping and the sealing because it's equivalent, right? But if you don't have that, means you need to hire a PE in the US, and that can be expensive to the company. So it helps. It helps in that way. I've ever received a message from a colleague of mine who wants a PE, but they are not in the US, right? They are in a different country, but they want a PE here to provide. So I said, okay, this is my advice to you. You can look for this, and then they can support. So having the license helps. Justin, that's a good question. This question comes from Vincent. For the education portion of getting a PE license, which level of education is required, bachelor's or master's? Okay, good question. So the basic one is if you have a bachelor's degree, you can get the PE license, but you need 4 years of experience. If you have a master's degree, some state would give you 3 years work of experience accumulation. If you have a PhD, some states will allow 2 years work experience. So the more your degree is advanced, some states will give you some soft rules, right? So, but bachelor's is the minimum, 4 years. Okay. Any other question from the audience? These are good questions. Thank you for the asking.
Is the level of experience different in the state you're doing it?
Repeat your question again.
I was asking, is the state you're doing your experience for an engineering training different in each state?
Yes. So each state is different. And so if you wrote the exam, let's say you wrote the exam in New Jersey. For me, I wrote my exam in New Jersey, the first one. And initially, I thought about writing in Illinois. That was in 2021. But some of the states are different. And then I can show you that, but we can even do like a test now. I can, if we have time, I can show you like how the state differs. If you go on the NCES website, you will notice that some states will allow you to take the exam even without going through the state board. But some states, you have to go to the state board, establish your credentials, clear that thing, make sure that they are satisfied with you before you can write the exam. So it means that if you have taken the exam in New Jersey and New Jersey does not require you to do state evaluation or credential evaluation, maybe the state, and then you move to a different state. I would always prefer you write the PE in the other state, right? Having the same state, get that state license, and then later on, if you want to do a transfer, you want to add a different state, you add it. And that's what I did. I moved to Illinois before getting my New Jersey license, but then the state already told me that because I was here, I took the exam, I got everything here, and the month difference is just like 2 months. I can go to Illinois and then they will send me my license. So, but it's a bit tricky. You need to make sure that you are getting everything in one state in order not to complicate your process. I hope that answers you, Vincent. So every state is different.
Hello, Shai.
Okay, Godwin.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask, I'm preparing to apply for a master's degree in the US, and I know from our last session together that you get the FENP license after going to the US, and I would like to know, is it allowed to get the license when you are still doing your master's degree, or it is after the master's degree that you can apply?
Okay, yeah, good question, Godwill. So from the last time we had the one-on-one talk, and yeah, I explained to you that based on the location you are, your country, it is not mentioned as part of the countries that is under the Washington Accord or some of the countries that the National Council has given permission to write. So then it means that you coming to the US will give you the easy part. So which means that if you are here doing your master's, you can write the FE exam, but remember that writing the exam is one, and then getting the work experience is two. So there are three main requirements, the 3 E's. First E is the education. Yes. So you already have a bachelor's degree, which means that you can write the exam. But even if you write all the exam, you need to still wait to get the work experience under a US engineer. So that will delay you, right? For me, I already work in my home country for some time, have work experience from the utility, from the power generation, both thermal. But when I came to the US, that work experience did not count. It doesn't count as a professional experience. It only counts as a work experience, but not a professional engineering work. So the state doesn't count any experience you have outside the US. So because of that work experience, I have to wait and wait. Even though I wrote the exams, I have to wait for like 4 years to get it, almost 4 years to get the PE license. Okay. So it won't be immediate. That's what I'm trying to say. You can write the exam, but it won't be immediate to get the license. I hope that answers you.
Okay, so I can write the exam and the result will be delayed until I have the work experience, the professional work experience required.
Correct. So you write the exam, you get the results of the exam, you passed, but you need to wait to accumulate the work experience in the US working under a PE in the US. That's the most important thing. Not working under any engineer in the US, but working under a licensed professional engineer in the US. So if you come to the US and unfortunately you still continue to work under an engineer that is not licensed, it's going to go against you. It will be very difficult to complete that last process. So that last process can take you years. So you need to be strategic. If you want to join a company, look at a company that you can actually, they have PEs. So if the company already have PEs, then you can submit your work experience and then mention that, okay, I work in this company, and then you can provide Shaibu as a reference. You can provide Justin as a reference. You can provide, let's say, Julio as a reference if they are having P's in the same company, or even in a different company, but you work with them on a project.
Okay.
You need 5 reference. You need total 5 reference.
Wow.
And out of this 5, 3 must be P. 2 doesn't have to be P. So you can get 3 people who are Lancers and then 2 who are not Lancers, making it 5 for the PE alone. But if you want the EIT, you submit 3 references.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Great question. Any other question before we wrap up?
I just had a quick question about like the frequency of meetings. How often do we plan to have these?
Okay, so this meeting, the first one is today. It is a 1-hour meeting. Next week, we will go to the next one, which is the FE exam decoded. So I will talk about the 17 knowledge areas and the details into that. That will be next week, same time.
Oh,
I will send. Yeah, I will send. You will receive email to join that section as well. So, yeah. Okay. Without any question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
Since the U.S. Migration policy is being, let's say, tough toward foreigners, let's say that I've done my master's degree, and then I have a job, let's say, in Saudi Arabia, and I'm working under a PA license supervisor. Is that still count, or I have to work within the USA?
Yeah, so yeah, Saudi Arabia, they can also apply for the US license, right? But so they can write the US format. The National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying provides the international pathway where you can write the exam, the same FE and the same PE exam, but you will be licensed in Saudi Arabia, right? So working under that engineer, you accumulate a PE, working under a licensed PE in Saudi Arabia. As to how it applies in the state here, the state would have to take that final decision. So they have a state board. The board goes to meeting to decide on number of applicants. So in a month, let's say 50 people, they always have time that they do that kind of review. When they review, they will take the final decision. But your work experience will be working under a PE, a Lance's PE in the jurisdiction that you are, in the area that you are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for joining the first section. This is the end of the first. I'll put the video together and then I'll post it on ShaiLearning.com and also post it on my YouTube channel. I'll see all of you next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.